taken time to contemplate on what success means for me and to me. There have been times in my journey where I have internalized other people's definition of success. And because I still had worthiness wounds, I had this unconscious crippling belief that having external success that appeared a certain way would bring me a certain validation, then I would feel good enough. So I had to work through that. I had to navigate the wounding, the programming, the conditioning that led me to believe that, first of all, that I was not good enough, because that's not true. And secondly, that I needed external validation to validate my worthiness, because that's also not true. And lastly, I had to learn how to validate thyself. I had to learn how to love thyself. I had to learn how to feel good enough and how to stop attaching my worthiness, my inherent value, to external metrics. And as a result of doing that work, I'm in this space now of wanting to redefine what success means for me. And as I am navigating that contemplation, I'm out here going for a brisk walk outside early in the morning. The sun hasn't even risen yet, and no one's out here but me. Peace and quiet. That's one of the first things that came up for me. What does success mean for me? Living a peaceful life, living a life of ease, of joy, of gratitude, of abundance, of having meaningful relationships in my life with people who I feel connected to, and we have conscious conversations that are expansive and activating. Being active, fit, healthy, so that I have that feeling of vigor, vitality, aliveness, energetic, magnetic, radiant. Knowing when to rest in my feminine and knowing when to activate my yang energy to get stuff done. Feeling proud of myself, feeling proud of who I am and how I show up in the world, feeling good about the work I do and the way that I do it, feeling adequately compensated for the work that I do, and being financially free, being completely financially free, being able to travel the world and see all of God's creation. You know, I was just praying, asking God if God would grant me the grace to live to 111 years old. I was reading some scriptures in the Bible about one of Moses' descendants and one of his mentees, his protege, Joshua. And God blessed him to enjoy the promised land, that he didn't just get to the promised land with the children of Israel, but he actually was blessed to enjoy it. And he lived a long life. I believe he lived to 110. So, I added a year on there. Like, let me get to 111. Let me live a long, beautiful, healthy life and live to tell about it. I want my life to be more than just what I've been through, but also to be what I've created. And I want more years of what I've co-created intentionally with awareness and presence and consciousness with God than the years that I was unconscious on autopilot, unaware that I was unaware. Traumatic, unconscious patterns were creating more of what I did not want. And I would love to have a life where more of my years start to outweigh those years. So that's the intention. And to live that type of life where, if I live that long, I was thinking, I could visit a continent every year and explore the continent and explore all the sacred lands and sites and all the wondrous, beautiful places that I've been desiring, and meet all the people and eat all the amazing cuisine and explore the cultural fashion and arts and all that good stuff. So I would love for my beloved, the mister, to live that long as well. You know, sometimes he side-eyes me and says he thinks he'll be alive to his 80s or 90s, but for us to live a long, healthy life. You know, success for me means that I stay aware, present, conscious. Success means for me that the past of trauma does not dictate who I be, how I move, what I experience in this life. Success means for me being grateful just for my eyesight and the movement of my limbs and not taking any of this for granted. There's someone in the world right now praying for the life that I have right now, to have a man who loves them. And this year will be 11 years in. And we're snuggling this morning. He's holding me. I'm caressing his arm and we're chatting early in the morning, just holding each other. And I felt so much gratitude in my heart, like, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you. Some people aren't able to sustain that type of intimacy and connection and love in their relationships, and it dies. And I don't feel it's died with us. In fact, I feel it's grown and it's better than the beginning, and I'm grateful for that. A successful life means having an attitude of gratitude. And being able to just not take anything for granted. Anything or anyone. A successful life is me passing down the wisdom that I have accumulated and gleaned to these next generations so that they are co-creating the new world that is good for humanity, good for the all. Success for me means that I am able to just move through life in a peaceful way, of grace, of ease. Just feeling safe in my body. Enjoying my life. Giving myself grace during the challenging times. And being very patient. Having compassion for the challenges of life. Knowing that they are moments of processing and refinement and purification, and that like gold, like diamonds, like pearls, like the precious gems and metals that people value on this planet, when they're refined, they become so valuable that people will pay eons for them. And so how much more valuable do we become when we are surrendered in these seasons of growth, of renewal, of rebirth, of expansion? So success for me means being able to not be hard on myself during those seasons, to have grace, to be curious about what am I learning in this season? How am I growing in this season? How am I evolving in this season? What's for me to do and what's not for me to do? You know, I spent so much of my life being so dang on hard on myself because I was programmed and conditioned to be. I was programmed and conditioned to beat myself up because I had very critical parents who didn't love themselves. And they projected all their traumas and dramas and worries and wounds and insecurities onto me. And, you know, talked to me like I wasn't shit and cut me down and said, you know, my parents were my first bullies. Then I went to school and got bullied again. So life for me started off quite interesting. And to be able to face those experiences and feel the feelings that weren't fully felt and experienced, and to go and reclaim the parts of myself that got lost and trapped in those experiences, that's success. Healing the traumas that I experienced and I didn't ask for, that's success. Keeping my heart open and soft, that's success. Keeping my mind open and agile and flexible, that's success. Having a regulated nervous system that feels safe in my being, that's success. Being a sovereign woman, that's success. Being empowered, that's success. And so as I just sit here and contemplate on what success means for me, it feels liberating and invigorating that the definitions I'm coming up with for success are not these definitions that I have been marketed and people have marketed to the world and the masses and have internalized these images or these messages, and just discovering what success means for me from a place of wholeness and worthiness, self-validation, that I'm not doing anything to gain the approval or the likes or the validation of others, but I'm doing it because that's who I be. That's who I prefer to be. That's who I choose to be. And that's how I live my life. I'm walking down the street here and there's a school being built, and I was telling the mister yesterday they put a track in front of it. You would have thought that, somebody wrote me a check for $1 million. I was so happy, and I said, I wonder if they're going to hire a track coach. Because I would love to coach track. That's success, doing what I love. I love the sport of track. Track saved my life. Saved my life. I was 10 years old when I started running. And I didn't start running to be an athlete. I started running because my dad would beat me so viciously. I would have welts and bruises and scars all over my body, and I got tired of him beating on me. And one day my sister and I heard him coming up the stairs, and we pushed our dresser drawer in front of the door so he couldn't get in, because we knew if he was coming up there, you could just hear the rage. You could hear the temperament he was in, and knew what that meant. He was coming for me. I was the oldest. I was the one that got beat. And for whatever reason, you never knew why he was going to beat you. Sometimes he was drunk. Sometimes he was mad and angry. You just never knew why. And this particular day, I was going to fight back. I was going to fight back. And I pushed our dresser drawer in front of the door, trying to block him from coming in and create a barrier. And he was able to barge his way in, but my sister jumped on his back, and I ran right around him. And I ran down the stairs, and I ran out the front door, and I kept running. I just kept running. I was so brave. I was so brave. And I ran and I ran and I ran. And I ran to a friend's house who lived across town. I don't even know how many miles I ran. It was the first time I ran. And that day I felt free. I felt God's presence in a way I never had before. I always been connected to God. I came to this planet connected to God. I felt so free. And I remember I told myself, whatever feeling that was, I want to feel that for the rest of my life. And so I just started running. 10 years old. That's why I started running. And I started running cross country because I went to school and found out that you could actually legitimately run as an athlete. I started running cross country and eventually track, and became a track star, and track saved my life. It got me out of that house. It got me away from him. I was 13 years old, being sponsored to go to the USA Junior Olympics track and field national meets. Being flown out to Seattle, Washington, traveling down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and just traveling and running. And I found my ticket to freedom. This track. That was success. That was success. That I did not allow the abuse that I experienced and the trauma to stop me from becoming somebody. And went on to Division I track. Had a scholarship. And just became my way out. So in this beautiful season I'm in, after, technically being in a 5-year isolation incubator period of time, even though I've been online, what most don't know in real life, I've been isolated for 5 years. More than 5 years. Moved across the country with my husband, away from everyone I know. And God took me down the sacred path of doing the work. We went deeper. And this work is going to change lives. It's going to save souls. It's going to heal. So powerful. And that to me is success. If I had the courage to go back and get that little girl who felt abused and abandoned and betrayed and forgotten, neglected, rejected, dejected, I went back and I got her. And I told her she's safe now. And you come on with me, because I'm a safe woman. And we gonna rock this thing called life out together and live an extraordinary life. And not doing anything for anyone's approval, to be liked, for the validation, but doing it solely because it's coming from our internal compass. Being led from within, that is success.